I did tell you, you're not going to have to wait long for episode 3. To be quite frank, just did an outfit change and here I am recording it. So you guys are going to get this soon and fresh. And today's episode is titled, Don't Put Nyashaà in a Corner. If you were around in the 90s, you probably watched the movie Dirty Dancing. It's not as dirty as it sounds. It's a 1987 movie starring Patrick Swayze, Fly Guy, Jennifer Grey. Absolutely stunning. And her name is Baby. And the line in the movie actually says, nobody puts baby in a corner. And it's become a popular saying that encourages people to not have people limit them to their abilities or whatever the case is. And so I thought it would be a fun one to title this particular episode. If you've never watched the movie, please go ahead and do so. Like I said, it's not as dirty as it sounds. And if you know the song, well, I'm having the time of my life, it's from that movie. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So when we launched, there were a few questions that then came up as to what really, the big one is, what is this really about? And I love that because one of the things that I say in the first recording of episode 1, which we didn't then air, was if you are confused as to what this is about, well done us, because it's not meant to be confined to being about anything. And leading into that, in what is this about, I'm going to talk about what a conversationalist is and why I've chosen to list that as the thing that I do. Let's go back to some time last year, which is in 2024. I was reflecting on something and reflecting up on this gift of speaking and realizing that I hadn't been expressing it or doing it in the way that I used to and that way that I thought I would. So I was in a time of prayer and God said to me, it sounds very spiritual when you say stuff like that. And we will talk about all of those things. And that is part of the other part of the questions that we have for this episode. God said to me, Nyasha, ukuchemera microphone isiri yako. I was like, oh, because, when you have a gift like this one, we kind of have expectations on what you're supposed to do. You do public speaking, you're a politician, lawyer, that sort of thing. So it's like, but I'm not doing all of those things. And then we expect to do it in certain contexts. And when it wasn't happening for me in the way that I wanted it to, because I was waiting for other people to put me in that place, I was taken aback when God said this to me. And it wasn't just directly, it was also through different people coming up to me and saying, hey, I get a sense that you're holding back and you are confining yourself. I was putting myself in a corner. And we tend to be the biggest culprit of that in whatever it is that we actually are wanting to do or being gifted in. Now, how did conversationalists come to be? I'll define it first. And it says that a conversationalist is someone who is good at engaging in conversation. It's so interesting when you use a word to define a word. Anyway, and someone who is particularly fond of conversation, which for me is because I think there's a certain expectation. I've had people say this to me so much, Nyasha unofarira kutaura, or unotaurisa, or something like that. And you then feel so self-conscious about a gifting that you have because of that. And I've had to learn to differentiate between my people skills and what society expects or perceives of me being extroverted, because that's people feel that those typically go hand in hand. And I have news for a lot of people, and I think a lot of people will identify with this, that having good people skills doesn't necessarily mean that you're extroverted. It doesn't mean that I enjoy always talking. It doesn't mean I enjoy talking to everyone, which is a tricky one. So you're going to find me in a context with someone that I enjoy having conversation with, and I'm talking. And then the next thing I'm sitting in a corner quiet and someone's like, what's wrong? That's usually the thing. I'm like, no, I'm just don't want to talk. And so it was a hard one, especially for people who I grew up with in a family context, to actually come to grips with that. It was also interesting that when I was at school, I was considered someone who talks, but when I was at home, I remember an aunt of mine actually saying to me once, speak up. You never clearly articulate what you want to say, which I then actually saw it was because of the context that I was in. And so I've had to express that I don't always want to talk. And just because I have this gift, it doesn't mean that I always want to use it in the way that people would like for me to use it or expect of me to use it. And so I then just got to this place where I felt like conversationalist is the best term for it, because in those I've been able to express things within a vocabulary that resonates with quite a lot of people, and saying things that sometimes we are thinking, but particularly may not have the words for it. And so when we have conversation, we're able to be like, I hear that. And so in that, we having an expectation of what someone is meant to be given their gifting, we also tend to have an expectation on what they are meant to talk about, which leads to the second question that we're going to be addressing in this episode. Is this a Christian channel? And the answer is no, it isn't. However, before you exit, it is a channel run by Christians, and there is a difference. I think a Christian business, a Christian channel, is one that presents and it's used as a badge, especially in communities like ours, used as a badge. So it's church, and in a lot of the times, it doesn't present in that manner. There are a lot of people who say they are Christian and don't live out that lifestyle. And so for me, the term Christian business, Christian channel, kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth, particularly because I've had instances where it then feels like, the Sadducees, where someone comes in and they set up an appointment with you, 8 a.m., and you get there and they're praying. And you're like, okay, why didn't you set up the appointment with me for 8:30 or pray before 8? Because now you're disrespecting my time. And I think it's a big Christian value to respect people's time. So when I get there and you are doing something else, even if it's a Christian thing to do, that's still not the time to be doing it, because you've set up an appointment with me at that time. So I think that's some of the things that tend to happen in Christian termed spaces. Another thing that happened in our business early on is I had someone say, hey, how's about we start off the day with prayer? And I think it's such a good idea. I did think it was a good idea. However, one of the things that we didn't prerequisite to anybody who's joining our organization is that you are supposed to be a Christian. And I think as Zimbabweans, I'm speaking for myself as a Zimbabwean Christian, we tend to assume that everybody is the same as us and everybody believes what we believe in, which is interesting because even as Christians, we tend to believe very different things from one church to the other. And even within our own churches, we have so many things that we do not particularly align. And so for us to assume that everybody we meet is going to be a believer in Christ is something that I think we need to change. And I think that it is important to leave that space for people to be able to express themselves without having to carry a label that might then, get them into a corner. So what would then tend to happen is if we say it's a Christian channel and we address and we share our views, which we have a lot of, like you have views, and then it's like, I think it would be more fitting to then say, hey, this is what you think of it. I think differently from you. And I love that about the world. I love our diversity. And we are going to be encouraging respectful engagement in sharing our opinions and sharing our ideas. And we welcome, you to share what you think we should talk about in the comments. We've already done a call for that. And so we encourage you to continue to do that, but in a respectful manner. There's always a reason to disagree, but never a reason to be unkind. That has been one of my friend's statuses for as long as I've known her. Big shout out to her. And so we are going to disagree on a lot of things, but let us not be unkind to each other. So I think these are some of the guidelines that we are expressing for this channel, but a lot of things go. I'm not going to say everything goes. A lot of things go because we've created this, and so we can talk about anything and everything. The thing about being the creator of something is its purpose is in your hands. The purpose of a thing is in the hands of its creator. Same goes for when we look at us as humanity. When you're wanting to understand our purpose, you're going to go to the Word of God. If you are a mechanic and you're wanting to understand something about a car, you're going to go to the manual, you're going to go to the car manufacturer to understand it. And they gave it a purpose, they made it. So in the same way, love that we have this opportunity to create the purpose of what this can be. So please keep watching, keep sharing, keep subscribing. Again, like I said, we're not always going to align in values, but I think stick around. It's even nicer when you've listened and then you can write down your notes and can be like, you said this year, but I think this. So you can't do that if you watch a bit of the episode. You have to watch the whole thing. I recommend you even watch again so that you can nicely write down your points. And on that note, I have some exciting news. Drum roll, because we are going to have our first maAllbody joining us. It's going to be an epic number of episodes. We had such an amazing conversation with our first guest that it went on for 1 hour and 46 minutes. So we have to chop it down to consumable portions. And because this is a new channel, we are not afforded a certain length videos, which is why it's important for you guys to like, share, comment, and subscribe, because the more viewership, the more subscription we have, the more YouTube will allow us to post long form. So what we're going to do is, the truth of the matter is, we'll probably cut the episode at a cliffhanger so that next week you can come. But once YouTube extends our time length, you should be able to watch these amazing conversations continually. And we're not going to put too much distance in between them. So don't worry too much. Thank you so much for watching, and let's keep this official. Dun, dun, dun. What's that? Church of the Jungle. No. Yes. Very official like. Oh, fashion.